All right, thank you for coming today. I am Dina Hans. I am an educator and representative of Young Living Essential Oils, but I have a passion for gut health because at the age of, well, we can go back a little step. The day that I was born, I was a month premature. So a lot of my gut, my lungs, everything was a little behind schedule. And I kind of stayed that way for a very long time for most of my life. By the age of 2, I was diagnosed with severe asthma and severe gut health issues. Now, part of that was because 1, I was a preemie, 2, my parents were both chain smokers. So there was a lot of things against me at that time that really kind of changed how I responded to life. So at the age of 2, they started putting me on a breathing. At this time, they now call them breathing machines or, I can't think of the word right now, but you put a little mask on and it has vapors in it and it helps them breathe. They didn't have that back then. So you got pure oxygen with somebody blowing a antibiotic at you. So it literally was airborne. That's how they could get it into me. So they didn't have the little mask, they didn't have the little breathing machines. So at that point in my life, that was my first day of ever having an antibiotic other than you got amoxicillin or things like that for the regular cold and stuff. So my gut health was not in the best place. By the time I was 8, I was on 7 different medicines to help me breathe. By the time I was 9, I was on 12 different medicines to help me breathe and help me counteract the side effects of those medicines. By the time I hit 12, I told my mom, I said, I don't want to be one of these kids that can't do things. I still want to run, I still want to play. So we figured out a way with my doctor to be able to carry 2 different kinds of inhalers. One was a rescue and one was the regular. And I still played sports. I swam, I ran cross country, I was in track, I played softball, I played basketball. Everything that you were told when I was little, she'll never be able to participate. And I was like, no, this isn't going to be me. So by the time I hit 18, I was on 24 different medicines. 24 to keep me breathing and keep me, basically, they told me, from drowning in my own fluids. My parents decided to divorce at that time, moved us on to a new life. My dad went one way, my mom went another. So that change in scenery caused me another problem. And what that problem was is that the allergies that I was getting those shots for and getting all of that stuff to get me immune to it, we changed environments, so it was a whole new set of problems. So I had to start all over with the shots, I had to start all over with new medicines. So by the time I got married at the age of 30, I was on 26 different medicines just to keep me breathing. At this point, I had full-blown what they call candida, which is you have to have bad growth and you have to have good growth. Well, my bad growth outlasted everything else, because every time you put any prescription or antibiotic in your body, it's not picky. It doesn't say, oh, I'm only going to kill the bad stuff. It kills good and bad. So at that point, my system, my immune system, everything, and my hormone system, everything was very compromised. We struggled with infertility for a very long time, and finally we're very blessed. I have 3 daughters now. But unfortunately, what happened with me during those years and then during the years of having them, I carried that on to them. So every one of my daughters has the same issue. So the more I was at that point, I don't want to be this way the rest of my life. I don't want my daughters to have to deal with what I had to deal with. Now, they didn't have the full onset asthma like I did. What they had was what they call activity induced. So they would do something and have a little problems breathing. They get a little phlegmy, things like that. At this time in my life, I was like, there's got to be something I'm not doing. So I worked with my doctor, and he's just like, no, it's prescription, prescription, prescription. I'm like, really? There's got to be something else we can do. So we found an allergist that worked holistically as well as Western medicine. And with her help, we started making some changes. Granted, it wasn't like getting rid of those prescriptions overnight. She started me on a regimen of watching what I was eating. When did things flare up? When did I notice things? So it was journaling. And journaling has still been a huge part of my life to this day, because that's when you can kind of go back and go, oh, I started eating this, and now this symptomology is kicking in. So it's really kind of great to see that, but it's also really good to help dump things for emotions. So when we can do stuff like that, it really helps our bodies all the way around. By the time my daughters were 18, so I'm still struggling, they're still slightly struggling, we were having serious hormone problems with all three of my daughters. The twins were at that time 18, and my youngest was 17. So there's literally 22 months between them, but by the time that age happened, there wasn't that much space between them. So what we noticed was, besides the gut health issues that they were having and the activity-induced asthma, they were having severe menstrual problems, severe cramping, severe, you name it. These three girls were, living their hell, as they would tell you to this day. So we looked at how they were eating. We looked what we were doing. I was the mom. Here's mac and cheese. We went to McDonald's. We cooked at home. I mean, there was a variety of things we were doing. I just didn't see the picture. Everything was kind of like, we're doing everything we can. You talk to the doctors, they're like, no, this all looks great. You're doing great. Keep it up. And then one day my best friend said, hey, I was introduced to peppermint, and I know how good it is for respiratory. Will you at least, give it a try? So I'm like, yeah, okay. So a drop of peppermint, rubbed it in my hands. I'm like, okay, now what? She goes, just breathe it in. So we did. We just breathed it in. I could feel it go down into my lungs. I could feel things opening up, and I'm like, yeah, that was just, a fluke. I poo-pooed it for a year. I literally tried it every so often for a year. Finally, one day, it was a really bad winter, really cold here in Minnesota. Cold really sets off people with asthma even worse. So I was really struggling with breathing. The medicines I was on wasn't working. The allergist is like, I'm sorry, everything we've been giving you, you've gotten immunity to. Everything. Nothing's working for you anymore. There's no new products on the market. We're gonna have to look at maybe putting you on oxygen for the rest of your life. And I was like, oh no. This is the kid that said she wasn't gonna slow down in life. She was gonna let not life take her over, right? We're gonna make things happen. So my husband and I sat down, and we really started deciding, okay, what do we need to do differently? He goes, that peppermint's still sitting here. Maybe there's something to this. So we did a little bit more research. I found all kinds of oil companies. Even back 8 years ago, there was 6 what they call reputable companies. I investigated each one, and it kept coming back to Young Living because of its purity. Now, I did try other ones, I'm gonna be honest. Things did not go well with those. There were chemicals in a lot of them that if you've got a breathing problem, or in my case, asthma, it will trigger those and make it work like if you walk into a beauty counter and you smell those perfumes, it would send me into anaphylactic shock. So like for me to go to Macy's or Penny's by the perfume counter, it would be either go around the building and go where you needed to go and eliminate that. I've even held my breath hoping that would help, but it's still the chemicals that are in perfumes. For most people with asthma, it will trigger something. And for me, it would trigger anaphylaxis. So I was carrying EpiPens with me. It wasn't a fun life for me. So we started making changes with our diet. First it was herbs. We started taking more herbs into our diet, not just fresh, but ground up herbs. Then we started incorporating a couple more of natural supplements. And this was all working with our allergist. But what we found out is that all it was doing was just making me feel better, but it wasn't taking care of that root cause. And we have those root causes, we usually put a bandage over it. It's just that's what we do in this society. We don't look for the underlying cause. We look for, okay, how can we get the symptom to go away so they can have relief, but they're not fixing what's really down here. So what we did is we jumped 2 feet in with Young Living, and I wanted to learn everything I could about it. I did my research. I am not a researcher. I am what they call a yellow. I like to take care of people. I like to make people feel good, but I don't like to read. I don't like numbers. It's not my thing. But this was about my family's health. It wasn't just mine, it was my daughter's. I could keep going the way I have because how many years had I been doing it? At this point, I'm 45 years old at that point. I've been doing it for 45 years. It's part of my life. It became who I was. But my daughters were 18 and under, and I didn't want them to go through the next many years with what I had to. So what did we do? We figured out those root causes. We worked with this holistic allergist. We worked with some nutritionists, because what I found out is my doctor only has an hour of nutritional background to get his degree. That's it. They don't have to have that to get their MD. Now, if they specialize in nutritional, yes, then they have many more hours. So we worked with a nutritionist, we worked with our allergist, we made changes, and part of that is figuring out what was in our food. Well, what I was finding out is almost everything I was, getting the Happy Meals, chemicals. Getting a box of mac and cheese, chemicals. Everything I was putting into my family's life was just building up. They call it the accumulative effect, which means that you're taking a toxin, you're putting it in, because your body's DNA doesn't understand that DNA, it stores it. It says, oh, this is bad, let's put it somewhere. So it puts it into your kidney, your liver, your spine, and then it starts saying, well, we need to find another home for it. So that's where it gives us our little muffin tops, our extra little weight somewhere, because it's finding places to store it, and we store it in fat. So what happens when you start losing a lot of weight? Does anybody know what happens to that fat? It melts. What happens when it melts or goes away? Those toxins come back out, and they get back in your body, and you're starting that cycle all over again. So where is it going to go? It doesn't know how to leave, other than some of it will go out through urine, which is amazing. Some will even escape through your skin, because that is your biggest organ. But again, if you're not cleaning this up and you're not taking care of your body, it goes back in and stores again in those places. So it's all about finding balance and bringing things in that can get you to a better place. Now, can we cure or fix or establish a good gut health and take care of everybody? No, not everybody. Because there are some genetic diseases out there that it's not about the gut. But Hippocrates said over 2,000 years ago, disease begins in the gut. He also stated that you have two guts. You also have two brains, because your gut and your brain, or your brain and your gut, have to work together. If they aren't working together, neither one of them work well. How many of you have had a big meal? I've got men with the Thanksgiving, so you guys put that in your head. And you're sitting on the couch, you're a little overfull, you're feeling a little lethargic, your brain's kind of got a little fog going on. Do you know why? Because you slowed down the receptors to your brain, because you overindulged on foods that your body can't break down quickly. And when you do that, you put your brain into a fog. How many of you at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon had a big lunch, maybe something not healthy, and you feel like you're crashing? We've all been there. I can honestly say I've been there a lot, and I just thought, oh, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm a little tired. But it's because we're not finding the energy in our body because of what we just put into it. Because again, when you use processed foods or foods that come from genetically modified products, we have no way to break those down and create new energy. So if we're taking in, Mary, what's your favorite food when you were eating bad?
Ice cream.
Okay, ice cream, loaded with not natural sugars, loaded with chemicals, because the chemicals that they put into the sugars nowadays, so they can get them to elongate, be more, get a better return on their value, we're taking those in and we don't know how to break them down. Did you know that back in the 1800s, the average man or woman would only eat 5 pounds of sugar a year? 5 pounds. Does anybody have a clue what we're eating right now per person? Not even a guess? Over 150 pounds per person per year, on average. Now, I'm one of those that's below that, because I've had to change my diet to take care of me. But can you imagine the person that's not eating that average? Look where their health is at. We can talk about white flour. White flour was never meant to be white. We bleached it, we enriched it by adding in chemical, niacin, riboflavins, all of those chemical lab created, but our body doesn't know how to use those. Those aren't real nutrients to us. So when we take in those things, guess what happens? That's where the disease states comes in. Our bodies run at about 62 megahertz. That's good health, 62 megahertz. When we fall below that, that's when disease states come in. 25 megahertz and below, as my husband's saying, he calls it circling the drain. That's where your disease state is taking over and your life is coming to an end. So how many of you love the smell of coffee? I'm one of them. I love my smell of my coffee, and I do drink coffee once in a while. Usually decaf, because I've cut out caffeine since I was 16, because that was one of the things I found out that was causing a lot of my asthma, was the caffeine. It would keep my heart racing, and then I couldn't get the medicines to work right, so it wasn't a good thing. But I do use decaf when I have it. But just the smell of coffee can drop your megahertz 5 to 10 points. But can you add something to your coffee to make it go back up again and still enjoy that lovely cup? Because coffee's got some other good benefits. It really helps get things moving in your digestive tract. You can add in orange oil. You can add in coconut oil. There are a lot of really great essential oils and products out there that you can add to your coffee to get those megahertz back up. Cinnamon. My grandma used to take grounds, add in egg, and add in cinnamon, and that's what my grandpa drank for coffee for as long as I could remember. All of those things bring up your megahertz. Did they know something we didn't know? Maybe not, because megahertz isn't something that everybody talks about. So then let's say you're eating a really ripe green apple. So that megahertz is going to go up somewhere between 8 and 10, depending how fresh it is. But then you go to the store and you get a package of them. They're pre-cut. They've been dipped in something to keep them from turning brown. Those no longer have the nutritional value of a whole apple because they took some chemicals and they treated it to keep it from turning brown. They're not using lemon or the things that we grew up with to keep them from turning. They're using things like ascorbic acid that is a lab creation. Now, ascorbic acid can be something you can find naturally in the world, but we choose to do everything in a lab because it saves money. It's a money maker. They can make it faster than nature can produce it. So that's one thing about even Young Living. There's times that my favorite oil isn't in stock because it's about the growing process for that plant. Well, that plant can only grow during good season. Here in Minnesota, we don't have a long growing season, do we? No, we don't. So if we can take those growing seasons and take those really good purities out of it and bottle it and use it, it's like taking your good homemade harvested vegetables and canning them. You're going to continue that longer throughout your year. But we don't do that. We go buy something from the store because that's convenient. Everything in the grocery store, if you can stay around the perimeter, and you probably have all heard this, that's the healthiest place for you to be. Everything internally is places where you shouldn't be because that's where you're boxed, pre-created, GMO'd, everything's been added to it, foods are. But the supermarkets think they got smart recently. They used to have I don't know if anybody shops organic or goes to the healthier side, they used to have a section in your store that was separate, and it no longer is that. They have a small little organic section so you can go get shampoos and conditioners and things like that, or little things. But the bulk of it has now been moved in line because they want you to walk over to, oh look, here's Annie's cookies and here's Oreos. Oreos is $1.99, Annie's is $2.69. Ooh, but those Oreos look really good and they're double stuffed. I want to get those because I just saved some money. Because in our head, it's about the packaging and the pricing. It was for me for a long time with my family. I can get 4 packages of this and only 2 packages of this. My kids will eat them like crazy, but then I have to deal with the sugar highs and lows. It's a balance. Yes, we can still eat some of the crappy foods out there and still have a life. But it's finding balance because when this isn't working, your hormones will go out of whack. We see things like leaky gut syndrome. We see things like diabetes. We see things like, there's so many out there. Autism is on the rise because of bad gut health, because it affects the brain. Does it have to be that child ate bad when they were born? No, because our DNA is passed on from generation to generation. So what happened when your mom was little and what she ate came on to you, and what you eat right now and you pass on your children is going to be onto them. Can we fix those things? Yes. Let me grab my notes because this is the part I never remember. Here we go. Every 4 days, your stomach and intestine replenishes. Bad health, how fast do you think that's going to replenish? Not very. But the better you treat your intestines, the better you treat your gut, the faster that's going to replenish and become better again. Lining of the stomach and intestines, I said, is every 4 days. Gums are replenished every 2 weeks. Now, I know I've had gingivitis in my past. Again, bad gut health. And they're telling me that it'll never grow back. It'll never be the same. You'll have to have grafts. You'll have to have this. You'll have to have that. My bill to have any work done was going to be somewhere around $2,000. Now, my insurance didn't cover it, so I put it off. I can guarantee you by what I've changed in my gut health and what I've done with Young Living and what I've done with supplements, I don't have to have those grafts done now. Because I knew to start learning, I had to start doing. And doing things to take care of my body made a huge difference on how everything else worked within me. Skin is replenished every 4 weeks. I know everybody's cut themselves and they're like, oh, it's scarred, it's scabbed, it's all better. That's a 4-week turnaround if you have healthy skin, healthy intestines, healthy body. Liver is replenished every 6 weeks. If you do not filter that liver, it's not going to replenish on a healthier basis. If you do not work with your emotions, emotions are huge for our bodies. We store our emotions in our liver. If we have a bad thing happen, that's where it gets stored. How hard is it to get it out of there? It's hard. If anybody's dealt with any emotional, you bury it. You keep it very deep inside. There are great essential oils that have helped both of us get through some great emotional things that have happened in our past. But it's being able to say, I can do this, and making those steps in the right direction. The lining of all your blood vessels is replenished every 6 months. So if you are treating your heart good because your gut's good, because your head's good, because your hormones are good, do you know how well that the rest of your nervous system and your circulatory system is going to work? It's amazing the things that I have seen, and I know you can attribute. We have both seen some great things happen by people taking changes in their life. Does it necessarily have to start right here with Young Living? No, it doesn't. I'm just telling you this is a great avenue to take steps to help you enhance what you want to change in your life. This isn't here to fix. This is here to give your body a chance to do it itself. This body that was given to us by God, whoever you believe in, for me it's God. If this body was given to me and it was given to me in a pure state, we can get back there. We really can. There are things that you can do. They're small steps. They're baby steps. But I made it. Look at this. I have been with Young Living 7 years. I have been off prescription drugs for 6. I don't take any over-the-counter anymore. I have no breathing issues. Winter's coming, used to scare me. I would hate going out because I'd have to bundle my whole face up. You'd see these little eyes coming through everything because just that little bit of cold would make me sicker than I've ever been before. I swear every year it would get worse and worse and worse and worse. Probably wasn't. It was probably a big baby, but it's okay. But the thing I can tell you is I'm walking proof that things can change. I went from 180 pounds at the highest level of all the prescriptions down to 160, 155, and that's me staying active. I do yoga, I work out. I don't work out hard. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't. Because as I get older, I notice that I don't recover as quickly as I used to. So things have to move a little slower. But you have those things that you can do. My mom is 78 years old. When I went on this journey, she went on this journey with me. She also went on this journey and made changes in her diet, made changes in her life. She does use Young Living. She walks 5 miles every day. Do you think it's at a brisk speed? Nope. But that woman gets out there and she moves. She has not been into a doctor because she's not been sick, not because she's stubborn and something's wrong with her and she doesn't want to go. But she hasn't been into a doctor in 8 years because her health has been amazing. Now, her stubborn husband doesn't believe in what we just did. He keeps eating all the things. He brings his pop in. He still smokes his cigarettes. And he's constantly at the doctor's getting fixed. And every time he comes home, the first thing out of her mouth is, I have my thieves. What did he give you? She gets a little sassy with him. So I'm very proud of her because that is a huge step for somebody that was in my shoes at one time. This is my mom that was a chain smoker, and she literally stopped chain smoking like that. Changed how she eats, changed how she reacts to things. She's probably the biggest pain in the grandchildren's life right now because she constantly is telling me, you shouldn't eat that, you shouldn't eat that. You know what'll happen? You'll look like me if you eat that. Constantly now. So it is kind of fun to see her make those changes with me. I literally want to do that for everybody. Whenever I meet somebody, it's about me helping you find the best you. If that means sitting down and creating a wellness program, I'm there to do that. I'm there to show you the places you can go to educate yourself. That's how passionate I am about what happened for me. I can't tell my husband's story because it's his story, but he has the same similar one, military, lots of explosives. He's a biochemical warfare expert for the military, so you can imagine the things that he's around. Not the healthiest person when I married him. And now you would, night and day. Still struggles because there's a lot of deep metal in his body from guns and explosions and things like that. Some other emotional traumas we're dealing with. My 3 daughters. Good story to bad story to good story. Every one of them was diagnosed at age between 18 and 21 of premenopause. They were having night sweats. They were having hot flashes. They were having no periods. Everything that we experienced when we hit the late 40s, early 50s, my daughters were hitting between 18 and 21. Part of it was the diet. We found out that there were certain foods that we were thinking were healthy. The more education I got, the more we realized they weren't healthy. So we made those changes. Of my 3 daughters, 2 of them are out the other side. We've got them back on regular cycles. I have 3 grandbabies, 1 on the way. And my 3rd daughter, we're still struggling. She was the worst of both of them, but she's coming out the other side. They just told her the other day that she is now on a full regular cycle. She doesn't look like menopause is in her picture anymore. And emotionally, I'm seeing a change there too. Because when your body starts falling apart, so does your brain. You start seeing and feeling and putting those stories in your head that you didn't have before. So come up, enjoy. I've got products. Everything on this side here is everything that I've used to help with gut return. Everything on the other end is just for you guys to go in and peruse, look at, ask questions. Mary's here with items for sale. We've done some roller bottles for you guys to go home and use for digestive health, to use with immune support, just some things to get you started. And then we're here for questions. Exactly.
It has some classes set up, and there's some brochures up here. Help yourself.
Yep, and I teach all the time. I'm not afraid to come and do this. Obviously, I didn't even know about the camera earlier. I'm not afraid to come do this because this is what my passion is. If I can change one person's life today, that's where I want to be. Because I've done it for my children, I've done it for me. So thanks, guys, for letting me come. Have a great rest of your lunch. Come ask questions, because that's what we're here for.